Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on October 10th, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's journey to remind people that working together, if I keep doing that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I use to guide virtually every decision I make. With this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they keep working for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. Now, today we are going to be taking a look at the configuration of Earth and its accompanying systems. And you're going to love part of this. Okay, hopefully you can follow with it. I'll do my best to make it clear. Okay, but that said, I do want to tip my hat to Storm to start with. He's the moderator that stays in the background most of the time in order to make sure tech is taken care of and any problem children are removed before they're a problem. Then we have LA Moon, who is our moderator in the house that keeps the conversation going when it does stall. Now, I'm already fully aware what I'm about to reveal to you is going to be a bit of a hiccup. Okay, because during my last week, when as you've all heard, I spent a lot of time in the hospital and politely put, dead, I got a lot of information. Now, here's the first kicker to you. Earth itself, we are talking about the surface of the planet. Okay, that is Earth. This is where humans are. The reason we are the caretakers is because we are the dominant technologically advanced surface dwelling species. Needless to say, that came out well. Now, up until this past week, I've been telling you, about the inside of Earth as hollow Earth or inner Earth. What I didn't fully remember until last week was you actually have 3 tiers of construction. And yes, in Races of the World's second edition, I will be clarifying this with every race. Okay, right now, Races of the Worlds is split up as ancient races, meaning those that evolved on Earth, and off-worlders, meaning those that evolved off-planet. Now, here's the kicker. You've got Earth, which is the outside shell. Okay, then you've got hollow Earth. This is the shell inside, right below the surface of the Earth. Okay, and there are a lot of species, most of the ancient races, end up living in hollow Earth. Okay, yes, it's theoretically possible you can get there, but there's a lot of safeguards. Now, here's the kicker. Inner Earth is not the same as hollow Earth, because you've got Earth, which is the surface, then you've got what's in the next layer, which is hollow Earth, and then you've got the core. The core is called inner Earth. That is where the energy runs from. That is where the Caboran's heart is. And in all fairness, most of the elementals originate there. And let's not forget the outer layer. Okay, because you've got Earth, which is the surface. But when you go into the atmosphere, into the stratosphere, now you're gaining access to the astral plane. And that is where most of your Ararikar and Arara end up living, what you know as dragons and wyverns. Operation, how you doing? You are actually in with the gold. And again, guys, if you've got a question, absolutely put your questions in all caps so I can find them. Okay, so in all fairness, we have 4 tiers, but the 4 tiers of Earth is the foundation of how the whole thing runs. Okay, yes, we can get to all of them. Some of us can. Okay, now, one of the nice parts about this is now that I've been reminded of the actual configuration. Okay, what we got to realize is Earth, the surface, belongs to the humans. We're the ones that are supposed to take care of it. And frankly, we've been doing a pretty short job of it. Okay, but that's on you guys as individuals, not the government, not the politicians, not the bureaucrats and the mega moguls. Okay, the individuals, that's you guys, are responsible to take care of your own little piece of paradise or your own little piece of hell, take your pick. Now, centuries back, well, millennia back, the ancient races, what I know as the Kaldar, you know as the dwarves, and the Elfid, which you know as the elves, and myriad others, okay, were in a massive battle on Earth. Okay, they moved into Hollow Earth, along with a number of the species that evolved from what we know as dinosaurs. Eternity, you are in with the silver. Welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. Now, the nice part about it is in Hollow Earth, most of the time they get along. There are problems, absolutely. And in all fairness, every species I know of, whether we're talking off-world, ancient race, or human, all have had the same problem. They get caught up in the material world and end up at odds with each other. Okay, this is no different. Okay, what we've got though, if you want to look at it that way, this way, is on the 4th floor, you've got the elemental, or you've got the astrals. On the 3rd floor, you've got the humans. 2nd floor, we have the Hollow Earth, which is a lot of the ancient races. Well, Rider, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Well, we're doing a lot better than we were. That's for dang certain. You know, so of course, on the 1st floor is the elementals. Now, in volume in 2nd edition, I will be modifying that, so there will be notes telling you which fits where. Okay, now that's the starting point. And what I figured I'd do is give it to you at the beginning, and then I'd take a look at going into it a little more readily. Now, here's the question. Here's the thing. And this one, I mean, I'm going to have a hard time proving any of this anyway. But when we start looking at the planet, at Earth itself, and the configuration of it, let's just see. There we are. Now, when you take a look at the picture of the solar system, and I do not have the artistic capacity to show you, okay, but our sun and everybody's travels in a spiral around a center point and continues going around. Okay, but if you look at it, the planets are not lined up on one plane. Okay, picture, if you will, a center point spinning through the cosmos, and attached to it are, I kid you not, a dozen planets. Okay, that are following along. Now, yeah, I realize, astronomers have been telling you there's only 8 or 9. Okay, I'm telling you there's a dozen. And no, I am not an astronomer. Okay, I'm just a little different. But here's the thing. We're taught that the Earth is round. And it's a cute thought. Picture, if you will, a teardrop. Okay, Or now, how about we just go with a drop of water coming out of your sink? Okay. If you take a look at a drop of water going out of your sink, it's going to look similar to this. Okay. You'll notice it's narrow at the top and then turns into a bubble at the bottom. Now, that is not exactly what we call round. However, if you take a look at the trailing, so you can get a look from behind all of the planets, okay, and you look at the bottom of them, they're going to look round. Okay, this is why we are taught that the planets are round. They're actually teardropped. Okay, but when you look at them from behind, they all appear round. And just to be clear, okay, no, we'll leave that alone. Okay, now this is the way, the reality is when you're looking at this, and the astronauts can tell you this if they've been out far enough. Okay, but you see where it happens? If the planet is traveling this way, okay, well, if it travels this direction, the point goes first, and then it builds a bubble behind it. But when you're looking at it from behind, it looks round. Okay, now, here's the real kicker. And mankind is not going to figure this one out, in all likelihood, for about 250 years or so. Our solar system is not a single star. And that's the hard part for most people to realize. Our solar system is part of a trinary star. Okay, meaning our sun and two others set up at the points of an equilateral triangle revolve around the same point. Okay, now hopefully this is making sense. When we take a look at Earth's surface, we know what we're doing. Well, maybe not. Humans you've got a choice. You can make Earth heaven on earth by cleaning up your own little neighborhood, or you can make it look like an absolute dump. Your call. This is not up to the government. It is not up to the major moguls. They're all people as well, just like you are. Although they do have an important part to play. From your standpoint, it's time to get busy straightening out your area of the world. And absolutely talk to the people around you. Okay. Now, I've been asked, are the ancient races looking at coming back? The answer on the whole is no. They're not looking at taking over. However, if mankind does blow the daylights out of the surface, the ancient races will resurge to the surface and take care of Esau, who you know is Mother Earth. Now, that being said, I've been asked, how do you get there? Well, and some people have seen this. There are two access points, but there's a hiccup. They're both at the poles. But because of the technology, because of I don't know if you want to call it technology or magic. Because of the system of protection they have, you go down one of those holes, you will hit a point where you pop out the other side and come out on the other part of the planet at the other pole. Just looking to see if I missed anybody. Now, is it theoretically possible to get inside? Certainly. There's all kinds of access portals. Okay. Some of you, I'm sure, have found them. Okay. Most of you don't believe it's possible, and therein lies the problem. So what we have to realize is, first and foremost, inner Earth and hollow Earth are two different places. They're still under Earth, but they are at different depths. And that's where the change comes in. Now, when you go right to the very core, that's where you'll find the elementals. Your holic, your Waylosh, and your cordon. Okay, these are your earth, water, and fire elementals. There are others down there, but I gotta go through and find out what I'm looking at. But like I said, in second edition, we have 60 races. Okay, now I will tell you, things have been set back time and again. This last one, something to do with being in the hospital for way too long. But when we start looking at it, most of your ancient races, the Kaldar, what you know as dwarves, the Elfid known as elves, the Feyri, you've got the Grom. These are just some of the species. Operations going of the inner earth beings, which are the eldest? That's actually a really good question. I would have to say, in all likelihood, well, you definitely have to look at the Gaboran, which is Itza. That is the entirety of the planet. Without her here, you're in trouble. But the Holic are probably one of the oldest. It's a toss-up because the Holic are the ones, they're the fire elementals that help keep the planet warm and rotating. Now, you guys have heard of a molten core, I'm sure of it. What you haven't heard is that was part of the material that our sun is comprised of. And then it's set up inside a buffer system. But the Holic, working with the Corridon, which are the earth elementals, turned around and built a system. Okay, the Waylosh, which are your water elementals, they came in to help provide atmosphere, which is why everybody inside can still breathe. But those are probably the eldest. Now, in the area, if we don't talk about what's in the planet, then you're looking at the Zerziks. The Zerziks are one of the few races that actually transitioned from the last rendition to this one. Okay, so they've been around Earth longer than the elementals have been. But they are not technically in Earth. Okay, they are simply around. They simply keep tabs on everything. You gotta remember, the Zerziks are the ones that keep tabs on the Akashic records. Okay, but when we look at inner Earth, those three work together. Now you'll notice, okay, here's the kicker. I've told you time and again that everything is connected. Now you'll notice we have the Holic, the Waylosh, and the Cordon. Okay, you also have in an atom, and this is going to throw people for a loop, you've got the proton, the neutron, and what I call the null, a neutral energy source balancing out the actual atom. Yeah, I know, many of you talk about the electron. That's another thing altogether. Okay, it's actually the electron or the shockwave thereof that the off-worlders use to power their OTE drive. But understand that balance between those elementals is exactly what keeps Itza alive. This is why, if anybody threatens Itza, the people living on the surface are the least of the concerns of the defenders. And unfortunately, humans seem to be doing things a little backwards. Blue, how you doing? You are in, let's see here. Operation came in with the gold. Then we had Eternity with the silver. And that means, Blue, you've come in with the bronze. Welcome aboard. And remember, guys, if you've got questions, absolutely put them in all caps. That way I can find them. Okay. Now, those three elementals. Okay, and you'll notice I stopped at 3. This is because, and I know a lot of pagans will get upset with this. Okay, the element of water and air are the same element, simply different density, at least in my experience. Now remember, I am not the only person that knows anything. I am not the be all and end all. Okay, I am simply looking at the world the way I see it. And that's all I can do. It's all any of us can do. Okay, but when you get those 3 turning together, okay, what you find is that you're dealing with a very successful energy core. Okay, and they are in constant contact with Esau, which is why Esau's gotten herself into a nice pattern, a nice journey. Many would call it boring. I mean, she's been doing the same pattern for like 5.5 billion years. I don't know about you, but I get bored. Okay, but the 3 elementals that are in inner Earth, okay, are the ones that are keeping this running. Now you will find there are intermediary races, ones that sit between inner Earth and hollow Earth. Okay, and yes, those will be identified as well. Same as there is a section between hollow Earth and Earth. Okay, we are not talking about a solid form. And that's where people run into the biggest problem. One of the nicest parts about it is once you come to understand this side of it, or at the very least, come to accept it, you'll find things change very nicely, and your shall we say, your database is likely to get a whole lot bigger. But the first thing you got to realize is you've got to accept the possibility that this is going on. You don't have to understand it. In all fairness, you don't even have to believe it. It's kind of like gravity. You don't have to believe in gravity for it to play havoc with your body if you fall downstairs. But when you start looking at Earth itself, like I said, we are not a single star system. We are a trinary star. Okay. And right now, mankind does not have the technology to reach out and see the other points. They're just plain too far away. Okay. What I can tell you is that when they discover them, which is about 250 years down the road, then they're going to have to rewrite everything. Oh, there we go. And thank you very much for that, Storm. I tend to get caught up. Storm's just reminding us. Tonight's All-Stars. Gold is Eternity Eternal. Operation Shutdown comes in with the silver. Bronze comes in with Woo Rider. And honorable mention goes to Blue Cruise. And I really do appreciate you guys taking the time out to share your time with us tonight. There was a long time I was sitting there in the hospital going, I got to get out of here. I got to get back to work. But frankly, I had to survive first. Now, what we're looking at this point, when you start looking at Earth, understand we are not talking about a simplistic single item orbiting a central point. We are talking about a multifaceted, multi-layered organism rotating around a central point, balanced by 3 stars. Okay. And yeah, I realize that goes completely outside what you've been taught. Quite honestly, Operation, I can't give you percentages, but I will tell you, over in Ireland, you see many people from Hollow Earth. Okay, people like your fairy, like what humans call brownies, and I'll have to go back in and find out what their actual name is. The Alpha tend to surface, as do true Kaldar. Okay, once in a while, if the weather gets really bad, this is because an elemental has come from inner Earth. Now, we had a fire back here. We had a fire back in 2003 that called a Hollock right to the surface. And you could watch this thing walk across the landscape. I kid you not, it looked like it had legs and simply stepped a good 6 miles apart. Okay, like each step. So I can't give you numbers, but I can tell you to show up. I have heard of people that have seen beings from the astral plane, such as the Ararahar. Okay, what you know as a dragon. Okay, and this is where I run into a complication with some people. When you take a look at the Weclonicon, also known as Sasquatch, they are from Hollow Earth. Okay, but they can come and go as they please, which is why they can disappear like that. And everybody thinks they're going interdimensional. They're just disappearing, they're just dropping off the map. Now, oh, my apologies. That wasn't what are the odds, it was is there any chance? And yeah, like I said, you can run into them. I've run into off-worlders, as you guys well know, and you can believe that or not. That's your call. What are we looking at here? Oh, we're doing not bad. Throat still holding up, but this is why I've got both coffee and water. I'll tell you, intubation really mucks up your ability to speak. Oh, there you go, Blue. Yeah, Blue's just saying Cook Ireland is where my family is from. See, and mine, our heritage is the Highlands in southwestern Scotland. Okay. But when we start looking at that, the ancient races, and the other thing you'll find is on the surface. Now, yes, there are a lot of Arboreans in Hollow Earth. There's none inside Inner Earth. Okay, something about the weather being completely incompatible. My apologies. There are a few of the smaller Arboreans that reach into the Waylosh. Okay, you gotta remember, the Waylosh, the Holic, and the Cordon all merge together. If you've ever seen Star Trek: The Next Generation, and you see the or not Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you saw the individual called Odo. Okay, Odo is a Cordon. Okay, they don't have a solid form. They merge between each other, as do the Holic and the Waylosh. Okay, but some of the Arboreans that reach into Inner Earth can draw on the energy of the Waylosh. They won't draw on the energy of the others because, well, the others will kill them. And that's just by accident. One of the biggest things we have to realize is these three elementals all communicate with each other and Itza in order to maintain things running in a proper balance. Now, I'm hoping this makes sense, because what it is when we do something on the Earth, okay, on the surface of the earth, everything we do up here trickles down into inner earth. Okay, so the water that is seeping through the ground from our lakes, from our ponds, is all dropping into hollow earth. This is why it rains in hollow earth. Okay, and then once it gathers in hollow earth, it drains into inner earth. And then what you get is the Wailash carrying a lot of it back up to the surface. So you've got a constant rotation of water, fire, and air going through the entire planet. This is why some of you can hear the heartbeat of Itza. Okay, it's the pulse of the changes. Okay, and that's because of the the subquantum biomagnetic flux that is generated by all living entities. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. And yeah, I realize I'm going way outside the box of normalcy. At this point, we have to realize that when I say that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody, I mean literally working with the denizens of inner, hollow, and earth, as well as the astral plane. Susan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, there you go. I'm glad you made it in time. Now, this said, absolutely, guys, if you have a topic that you would like to get a look at, doesn't matter what the topic is. Okay, I'm in the middle of doing my best to set topics up that people are interested in, that people have questions for. Okay, I'm not the only person who knows anything. I just happen to be the only me. Mike, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, there we go. Well, probably. You know, people keep telling me to think outside the box. I keep having to ask, where's the box? I'm having trouble with that one. But I will say, you know, I'm not interested in where the box is, in all fairness. Okay, because I find it's too limiting. But I will tell you this. You know, when we take a look at this, when we take a look at the way that this planet is constructed, understand, you know, from a human standpoint, it was drawn together by two major entities. Okay. And now what we've got is a planet that is evolving. If I remember the numbers correctly, Earth itself is growing by about a quarter inch. I think not a quarter inch. Maybe it is. No, I think it's by about an eighth of an inch a year in diameter. Okay, that's because it's still drawing bits and pieces. Just like you're here to remember to collect all the bits and pieces of you, so are all other entities. So where it comes to Itza and every other Kaboran, they're still drawing cosmic parts of themselves and collecting together. When they get to a certain point, when they know they've reached their limit, then you'll find the things start moving. Jennifer, how you doing? Glad to see you could join us. And yeah, quite honestly, it was a long haul. Still not totally sorted out, but working on it. You know, it's funny. I was asked by my diabetic technician how much water I go through, and I says I'm going through probably a gallon a day. And she goes, "Are you that thirsty?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I've been drinking that much all my life." You know, but I will tell you, the healthier you are, the better you're going to connect with the planet and the peoples thereon. Okay. And it really does boil down to everybody's participation and everybody's help in getting this far. Because I'll tell you, there's not a one of you that can do it alone. Would that they could. Lord knows I'm lazy. I'd sit back and let somebody else do it. But what we're looking at now is starting from the ground up. And since I figured we were going to start from the ground up, I'd take a look at the actual configuration. Now, when we look at this star system, Earth itself, we are not a single star. Okay, yeah, we revolve around one star, but we are part of a trinary star system. Okay, and the whole thing is going through the cosmos around a central point. All of them, okay, all of the planets and all of the suns for that matter are spinning as they turn. It's that center point that is the intriguing part. And I'm still trying to figure out what the center point is. I will tell you this. My first instinct says that we are revolving around a hitherto unknown black hole. Okay, but we're at that geosynchronous orbit side where we're not being drawn into it. Okay, and yes, black holes grow. They really do. This is why what I call a flip, as in all of reality gets turned inside out, disassembled down to the molecular parts, and then reassembled. Okay, now this goes on repeatedly. But on Earth, we have a choice. We can either start really working together and start rebuilding or stabilizing this planet, or we can continue fighting with each other, continue blaming everybody else, and see what happens. Tell you the outcome is not a good one. Well, get that out of my way. I'm just looking at what I've got here, make sure I didn't miss somebody. Not by the look of it. Now, with this in mind, okay, no, I cannot tell you how you as an individual can get to inner Earth. Okay, I can tell you and will be writing about it and reporting what I know. The unfortunate part is I can't prove any of it, which leaves you guys with the choice of, are you going to believe what I say, or are you going to just go, nope, that's impossible? Okay, that becomes your call. And I'm not here to convince people. I'm simply here to relay what I know. Okay, and I will tell you, every one of the species, every one of the different races I know of, have their belief in some higher power. And in all fairness, virtually every higher power is attributed with the same abilities. Okay, what people don't seem to get is whether you're a Holic, a human, a Walosh, or a Moldakian. Okay, no matter what race you are, you're still the same as the others. You're still just as important. And it's literally the effort of people working together that stabilizes the energy flow. Where we run into a problem is so many people try and control what everybody else is doing. Okay, and while they're doing that, they blame other people. Well, ultimately, that's a problem. So I hope that makes sense. But Earth itself is turned over to the humans. And the reason for that was literally when the war happened centuries back, like millennia back, the ancient races moved inside. Okay, moved into inner Earth, or moved into hollow Earth, and left the humans on the surface. Reason being, humans were quicker to reproduce, okay, and easier to repair. And I'm going to throw a wrench in things here. Yes, in time, Now, we've already started finding the skeletons of Anunnaki, the giants with 6-foot heads. Okay, they evolved on Earth. Okay, we've already found various different species that are already here. It's just people aren't recognizing them per se because they don't look like humans. So it's like, well, that can't be real life. Hate to tell you this, but it really is. What we got to realize, and this is something when I tell people, I treat all people the same. I believe myself that elementals, plants, animals, and people are all equally important people. Okay, that's why I treat them all identically. Okay, yes, there are ones from every species that are absolute doorknobs. Okay, but there are also ones that are absolute gems. And this is what we got to realize is happening. Okay, is that people are working around, they're working around the idea of figuring out how to get along in spite of what we're being told. And that's the real kicker to it. Okay, one of the biggest things we have to remember is that the energy that this planet is comprised of is literally the lifeblood of everything because it's all connected. And with it all being connected, we can literally put everything together and make this a much better world. But we gotta quit looking at it going, oh, I dropped a candy wrapper on the ground. I will tell you, one candy wrapper won't matter. However, 100,000 candy wrappers or 1 billion candy wrappers absolutely will. Okay, they will create a problem. And this is what we've got to, as individuals, take to understanding and acting upon. Let us not forget that, yes, the wind blows. And by the way, all wind is not Waylash. Okay, wind itself is an element. Okay, and the reality is Waylash are wind and air. All of them are one or the other. But not all molecules of wind and air are Waylash. Okay, just like all Caboran are planets, planetoids, comets, this sort of thing. But not every planet, planetoid, or comet is a Caboran. Hopefully that makes sense. We are going to go into a lot more detail, or more to the point, we're going to cover a lot more different topics at that point. One of the things we have to remember is by tapping into the lifeblood of Esau, by remembering how to meditate, how to reach out with your own senses, you'll be able, and many people, especially, and simply put, if you want a major group of them, you will find a higher per capita of people following the pagan religions, the old religions, that are capable and that know they're capable of tapping into life energy. Okay, everybody else can learn, but you got to accept the possibility that you can do it. We are traveling nicely, and I've just been told we're down to 15. Okay, now with that in mind, something to get, like I said, all of this I am going to be documenting. Okay, as a matter of fact, what do we call this? Like I said, I got way too many ideas in my head that have to be, that I've got to get written. So that when I pass, the information is there. Okay. I mean, when I pass for the final time. So what we're talking about tonight, I will be writing down. like I will be putting into a booklet form. Exactly how long, I have no idea. I got way too much on the go. Okay, and of course, a lot of this information tends to come up as I'm going along. And honestly, okay, Miss Jones. Miss Jones is asking how to meditate. And that being said, that's the easy one. I don't think I've got anything. I don't have anything listed for Sunday. So, because Sunday is the day that we're focusing on spirituality, and I'm sure Storm is going to catch this, we are going to cover on Sunday how to meditate. And understand, this will only be one method that I personally use. There's a lot of other ways of doing it out there. One thing you do have to keep in mind, okay, is everything we're talking about here requires the release and the manipulation of your imagination. Okay. Now there's a lot of things that you got to remember as you reach out and tap in. Okay. I can be right in contact with each other to know what the weather's doing, whereas the weathermen don't. Don't get me wrong. They do a wonderful job with what they've got. Yeah, I see that, Ellie. Ellie goes, I use a hand wave to alert Keith for a question. You know, and that makes it so much easier for me. Because I'll tell you, I can't wait till I can get my big monitor up and running. But we are finally getting the files and what have you resorted in the office organized. Because my wife moved here and moved all her stuff in boxes. And then I decided this is a good time to have a problem in the hospital. Really screwed up the unpack. But we are getting back on track. Now, when we start looking at the 3 levels, understand mankind runs the surface. We got free reign to do what we will. But it's up to you whether we make this heaven on earth or hell on earth. Your call. But it's going to require more than prayer. It means prayer, affirmative thinking, positive affirmations, but utilize all of those. But remember to get off your tail feathers and physically make it happen. Okay? If you don't, you're going to run into problems. See, the reality is people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. Now, here's the kicker. The people in Hollow Earth and Inner Earth I regularly talk to, and they ask the same silly thing. Is it possible for us to go up to the surface? Can we go up onto Earth itself? And of course, I'm like, you're absolutely welcome to go. But remember, humans are terrified of their own shadows half the time, it seems. And one of the common factors I've seen amongst humans is they see something weird and they go, let's shoot it and then ask if it's friendly. This is not a good way to make contact. One of the things we got to remember is it really boils down to taking the time to go, what is your goal? My goal is to get this mess all sorted out. And I have started working on it. Now, you can't see it, I don't think. No. That one might fall. No. Well, maybe. But that's my filing cabinet that I've got to modify. And the thing is, I'm putting notes together on all of the species that I know of in order to get them in print so that when I do pass, when I do pass, the information is not completely lost. Now you get to figure out what to do with it. Now you are right. I cannot prove what I'm talking about. So I leave that to somebody else. But I get way too much corroborating evidence to say that what I'm coming across is functional. Okay. LA is going, action is required to join faith for reaction. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why I say all the prayers in the world are absolutely useless if you don't act. Susan is asking, with all the earthquakes, does it matter to inner Earth? Yes, it is all interconnected. But understand, they can feel the earthquake on the surface. Okay, but it's kind of like when you take a look at the hairs on your feet. Okay, when you comb your hair on the surface, your feet will feel it. Now, I don't know if you're aware of that. Myself, I can track my pulse right to the end of my hair. We can safely say I don't have blood in my hair. Okay, because I'll tell you, that would make a hairdressing setup a nightmare for hairdressers. But yes, the earthquakes and the way that people are fighting, that humans are fighting with each other on the surface, matters a great deal to all of the species of inner Earth. Okay, and because you gotta remember, when you get negativity up here and they come up to make things happen, they have to fight through that cross current. You know, that's where it becomes complicated. You know, so because you gotta remember, all of the elementals, the Holic, the Waylosh, and the Corridon, all work to help keep Etza healthy. And frankly, you can do the same thing. We know there's going to be garbage. Okay, we absolutely do. What we have to remember as individuals is if we contain it, recycle what we can, there will still be garbage, there will still be dumps, there will still be stuff blowing around. Donna, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, there we are. Oh, are we down to the 5? Coming down to it. So, oh, there we are, 9 minutes. So, LA came up with the idea of bringing this stream back to only 1 hour a night. And I'll tell you, especially with what's gone down, I don't think I could run a 2-hour run. Okay, it gets real tricky. But I am going to continue pushing to do what I can to get my own stamina up. Okay, I really got to say thank you so much for sharing your time with us tonight. You know, we're getting down to the fine wires here. And just keep in mind, Earth is not a single component. It is a multi-layered entity with all kinds of interlocking complexities. Yes, Susan, we will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific. Okay, and we run from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, Tuesday or Friday through Tuesday. Then I take Wednesday and Thursday off. And that said, if you've got a topic, like I said, Sunday we are going to deal with how to meditate. Some simple tips that I personally use. Okay, I don't do a whole lot of research and talk to everybody about their methods. I look at the ones I use because I can speak for them solidly. That's the idea. I will tell you this, Susan. When I get done this stream, I will be simply taking a quick break to check sugar levels, and then I'm likely going to crawl into bed and hopefully sleep through the night. That would be a nice change. You know, but I am a firm believer that with the right focus, with the right communication lines, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. And that means Earth, Hollow Earth, and Inner Earth. Okay, but it's up to all of us to work together. Now, with that in mind, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Okay, and I will see most of you, I hope, tomorrow, along with friends, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, and where we are going to be talking about the Moldavian Empire. Okay, until then, do take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.